So the issue here is that we need to pull out this sword from the scabbard and not have it clip through. So imagine you're grabbing the sword and you're trying to animate a character pulling it out of the scabbard. Whether you're animating the sword or the hand, you need to get this nice straight line right out. Now that's not a problem. I'm animating the sword, shrimp, done, easy. But what if I need to have this sword animated, and as he's pulling it at the very end of the scabbard, you have that thump, and he rotates it. Now I get to just before the sword comes out of the scabbard, right around here, rotate it, bunk. I've now cut the sword right through the scabbard. This is a pain. This can be a huge nightmare when you're dealing with stuff like this. So in this situation, based on the way you have this rigged, and let's see, what is this constrained to? This locator right here? Okay, cool. So let's just reset this here and actually make sure I key the sword in its scabbard right there. Then delete that. There we go. And we'll just leave that like that. So I need to set this up so that I can pull out this sword and have a pivot point near the tip of the sword that I can adjust so that as they pull out, it can twist from the end of the sword, and then I can switch back to the handle itself. So I'm going to do the same setup that I did on the hat with the last demo. So I'm going to create a couple of NURBS primitives. You can do this with locators, but because this sword is not rigged at all, there's just geometry, I personally prefer control curves because it's going to give me an actual control that I can use to animate the sword. Not only am I going to use this for this one moment of pulling out the sword, I would use this for the whole shot. So I can animate the sword and get all of those cool, nice motions in there. So once again, you would ideally want to do this when the sword is zeroed out. So I'm actually going to go to frame 10 here. I'm going to zero all of this out, get that sword right into its default position. I can always go back here to get it back into the sheath right there. So let's take this control curve and let's see, the scabbard is parented to the wrist right now. And the sword is constrained to the scabbard. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, we can do that, no problem. So I'm going to have a control ring here for the sword. And this is going to be my main sword control. So zoom in on that. So I'm just going to call this, let's make it a little bit bigger. Sword underscore control. Like that. I'm going to duplicate this, shrink it down. Right there. And call this sword offset. Right there. Now, in my outliner, I'm just going to place sword offset within sword control. And then I'm going to take the sword and constrain it to the control right here. Now, I'm not going to do this right away because the problem is if I did that, I'm not going to get the sword back into position here. So now that I've got these controls pretty much in place where I want them to be right there, I'm going to go to modify, freeze transformations. Okay, they're good there. And actually, what happened to the other one? Okay, modify, freeze transformations. Let's make sure scale is set as well. Interesting. Oh, it's because, yeah, you want to do that before you group things together. It's always the smart thing to do. So there, freeze the transformations, then parent it. There we go. Now I'm going to go back to frame 1 and you'll see that they've been left behind. This is okay. I'm going to take my main sword control right here, select the sword, go to modify, match transformations, and that puts it right back into position right there. So with this, I can now constrain the sword to the scabbard right here. Or sorry, I'm going to constrain the sword to these controls. So the offset, I'm going to select that, then the sword, constrain parent. So now I can take this sword control and animate the sword. Now I need this to follow the scabbard, so it all goes together. The way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to group my whole control group here, and I'm going to call this group, because we don't really need to see it, it's just following the scabbard. I just need it to stay in line with it. So I'm going to call this scabbard. I can spell follow. And I'm going to have that follow the scabbard. So select the scabbard, then the group, constrain parent right there. So now the sword is going to follow that. When I need to separate completely, I can just turn off this constraint, and then there you go, it's off. But now as it's in the sword, or sorry, in the scabbard, what I can do is pull the sword straight out here, just like that. But once again, we don't have that pivot point near the end. It's going to pop out and we're going to have an issue. Except I have this offset control, which now allows me to move my main control right there to the tip. I'll put this back into the scabbard right there. Now, as I'm animating this, I can just, let's actually do that right here. I'm going to animate this, and I'm just going to have it come out of the scabbard randomly, like he's just flinging it out. So it's here. It's going to come out of the scabbard right there. And then as it comes through, I can now push this and start to rotate it from the end here. And let's just make sure that it like slides along the edge there. Okay. And actually, let's see what's happening here. It's rotating from there. Good. Ah, okay. Yeah. Missed a step. I need one more control here to split the rotations and the translations. So this is actually a good demo. So what happened here is I've created this control and it's great. But the problem is now as I rotate it, see how it now wants to go in this direction? I need one more offset in here. And this is going to create that ability to slide it and rotate it. So the way I'm going to do this here, let's see. I wonder if I could just use the, yeah, I could just use the offset control. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate the offset control, which normally I don't do on these kind of things, but in this case, I don't need a super complex system. I'm going to have this where my pivot point is. So let's animate this once again. So select both of these, key them both. As the sword comes out, I'm going to take my offset, slide it out here, just out of the sword completely. So we're just getting that motion there. It's going out, and actually, let's see. Yeah, so it's coming out here, but now I can take my rotation of this control, and as it's starting to come out near the end, let's actually go, we'll animate backwards. So right here, it's right in the sheath, so I can rotate this back here, and let's keep it going that way. So it comes out, and as it's going here, I can just push that rotation so the sword doesn't stick out through here. So now, as it's coming out, I just need to refine some keys. It's sticking out right there, so bip, put it through, and there you go. Perfect slide right out of the scabbard. I could go into my graph editor just to clean up that curve. Right there. If I wanted to. But don't really need to. So I get that. Once it's out and he's swinging it around, I would take both controls, set a key on them. and then just reset the offset. Boop. Put the sword back into position. Boop. And then keep animating. And you see how we get that little slide there. You could do that over one frame or a span of frames, whichever. But as long as I keep going here, whoop, we get that nice pull from the sword and keep going. Like that. So I would do it over one frame. So when he goes boom, and swings it out, it's one frame in the middle there where you reset it and then just match the translations and go. So yeah, you can do it with this simple setup here. Now, one thing I should have done, which I didn't check, is the gimbal control on this. So right now, see how this axis is all messed up and sideways? This is because it's not lined up to the scabbard properly and it's kind of twisted around. So what I would actually do here is zero this out. Like so. So all of those values are zeroed out. And then the scabbard follow, I would line that up to the scabbard first. So let's take the scabbard follow. No, other way. So scabbard follow the group, and then the scabbard modify freeze transformation, or sorry, match transformation. My brain is turning off for some reason. Weird. You'd think being in a stream all day would make me totally active in my brain. I can't even think of anything. My brain is fried, is done. So let's zero this out here, zero that out, and just place this in the scabbard. And interesting, it's not aligning. Oh yeah, that's why. Because I moved something. Modify, match transformations. There we go. So you line it up first, and actually use that. Line it up first and then constrain it. So the reason I did this, so to explain what I'm doing, when I first matched the sword, I matched the sword to the scabbard, which added a whole bunch of crazy rotations to the sword, which created gimbal lock. Instead, I want the group here to follow the scabbard, be aligned right there, so that the sword is still zeroed out. It is completely zero. There's no translations, rotations to it. It is just following. Now I can set that to the follow the scabbard there. And I'm going to have pretty much the same thing. My animation is going to go crazy now, unfortunately, because of all these weird rotations right there. So I'd need to delete all of that and redo it. But essentially what this is going to do is now, as I pull this out here, you're not going to get those weird rotations. Look at that. Just one nice rotate Z. It's not going to be weird gimbal. So, yeah. I hope that all made sense. I know this was a mess. If you want me to redo it and show you from the start, I can do that. I know it's kind of been nightmarish here. And this is why I always practice demos before, or I at least try to practice demos before I actually do them, because sometimes they just don't work out when you're trying to do it live. And it's a pain. So yeah, if you need me to do it again so it makes sense, that's not a problem. Just let me know.